So as it turns out, North Carolina could have joined the SEC a long time ago. That's according to the former chancellor at Carolina, Holden Thorpe. That name definitely sounds like he should be in academia. But anyway, he was on a radio show, and I want to make sure that I get exactly what he said correct about North Carolina in the past going to the SEC. Here's what he had to say. And he was on a radio show in Raleigh. I don't want to get it wrong. They WRAL. Now WRAL is a pretty big deal in the triangle, as I understand it. So he says, this is the former chancellor at North Carolina. He says, look, Carolina is a good partner to have. I certainly didn't have any official conversations with the commissioner or anything like that, talking about the commissioner of the SEC. But, some of the presidents were good friends of mine. And yeah, presidents get together and talk about stuff. And yes, I'm pretty sure we could have gone to the SEC if we wanted to. I feel okay saying Carolina could have gone to the SEC if we wanted to. So he, after a moment or two, he reiterated that North Carolina could have gone to the Southeastern Conference in the past had they wanted to. I think this is a curious conversation to talk about because you've got a situation where the what's the equivalent to the president at Georgia, the chancellor at North Carolina is saying out loud that North Carolina could have gone to the SEC in the past, which means to me a signal of a couple of things. Number one, they may well go to the SEC in the future, and number two, that there was at least there was some discussion amongst SEC presidents and North Carolina in the past, or the president of North Carolina. Um, North Carolina is a special situation nationally. There's not a lot of schools like North Carolina. You've got Texas, UCLA, USC, I think Georgia, Florida, Michigan, Ohio State. There are linchpin schools that are really important nationally in terms of what they bring to the table. And Carolina is one of those in the ACC and nationally. And they are not the football powerhouse that Florida State, Clemson, and Miami have been. They're not even a powerhouse compared to Virginia Tech. But in terms of the structure of the ACC, there's no more important school than North Carolina. You can't really say that in the ACC, excuse me, in the SEC. There's no one school that you have to have, I guess is the way I'm talking about it. If you don't, if North Carolina were to leave the ACC, they would be bringing people with them. I think Miami is its own actor and will act however they'd like. When you think about North Carolina, you immediately think Duke. When you think about North Carolina, you don't immediately, but you always are tied with Carolina and NC State. You think about North Carolina, I think traditionally Wake Forest comes to mind at some stage. The Tobacco Road schools were four of the eight powers, if you want to call it that, in the ACC in the past. Clemson, Georgia Tech, Maryland, and Virginia were on the outside looking in because those four always stayed together in many ways. The Clemson people hate North Carolina, hate the ACC because of some of the stuff is not based in reality, which happens in fandom, but because of some stuff that happened in the 1980s with Clemson cheating. So, if moving forward, it would be hard for me to see Clemson and North Carolina moving together to the SEC. It would not be that hard for me to imagine a day where North Carolina and NC State, or possibly North Carolina and Duke, uh, came together and said, we'd like to enter the SEC. I'm skeptical that Duke makes a really good fit inside the league. You could make that argument. I don't think Wake Forest makes a fit in any way, but North Carolina does. And you're not just going to come with one team. So the question is, who would the other program be? That's the challenging question. Make sure that you're picking up our 2022 preview if you are interested in getting this, you can pick up DAWGSTRUCTION, our look back at Georgia's 2021 national championship, 80 pages, hardcover, full color, commemorative edition. You get that, you get DAWGSTRUCTION, and you get our 2022 preview for free. This has been very popular so far with everybody who's gotten it. I've gotten a lot of emails about it, thanking me for putting it out there. But it's stories and articles you are not going to see anywhere else. Make sure you're grabbing this while you can. This is not going to be out there forever because I'm going to run out of copies, and I'm not doing two editions of this. So get this now while you can. There's a link down below. DAWGSTRUCTION with our season preview is the better value. You get this for free, but we can also get you this in the mail very quickly. Make sure you're taking advantage of. I'm running a little low on DAWGSTRUCTIONs, so order now while you can. If you just want to pick it up in Athens, you can go to Red Zone on Clayton Street, and Mindy and Scott will help you out there. It's on Clayton at Red Zone. It's hard to miss. But if you were to bring North Carolina into the SEC, of course you would need a running partner. I don't know who that would be. To me, it's hard to imagine that it wouldn't be NC State. There's a lot of reasons why NC State fits the SEC model in many ways. It's a reasonable football. It's a better football program than Missouri. Both of these are better football programs than Missouri, frankly. They're not great football programs, but I don't think you want the league to be, hemorrhaging 100% talent. I mean, this now is about the acquisition of eyeballs, and North Carolina is not unbelievable with eyeballs, but this is really about punching the ACC to its knees. I am skeptical of all of this happening, and I talk about this a lot on Dog Post. If you don't understand where we're at in the hierarchy of all of these moves, Texas, Oklahoma, USC, and UCLA had the ability to leave because the contracts that they had with their rights holders in the Big 12 and the Pac 12 were expiring. Texas and Oklahoma have not left early. My suspicion is that it's more likely that they stay in the Pac in the Big 12 the entire time than leave the Big 12 early. That's my suspicion. They're certainly not going to leave super early. People were talking about them leaving this time, in a year. That was never going to happen. Way, way too much. Way too much money involved. I mean, Oklahoma doesn't have that kind of money. Most of these schools don't. UCLA doesn't have the money. They were in real trouble not that long ago, UCLA. So they're going to see these contracts through. Um, Folks don't want to get into litigation about this. The problem with North Carolina, NC State, Clemson, and Miami is they can thump their chests all they want to. But they're a bunch of dumbasses for signing what they did with ESPN a few years back. The ACC has made critical error after critical error, and they are in real trouble with this contract they've got. They got to get out of it, but they can't. But they can't at the same time. It is far too expensive, and none of these schools have the money. Maybe with the exception of North Carolina, none of these schools have the real cash to just flop down $100 million like it's nothing. I know a lot of people that are not Georgia fans watch these things. Hey, you can comment all you want. You don't know what you're talking about. Georgia would have a hard time eating $100 million. Ohio State would have a hard time eating $100 million. Those are them, Texas and Texas A&M. Those are the real money schools in college football and college sports. You don't just eat $100 million, okay? That's real money. and that's assuming it's only $100 million. So North Carolina moving to the SEC is great in talk, in theory. I think it would be a great addition to the league, but we could be years away from that happening. The only way that happens quickly is with cold hard cash. And North Carolina, Clemson, Miami, they sound great in theory, but are they worth $100 million that they pay out to the ACC, and then $100 million or $80 to $100 million that they'd be worth annually to the SEC in rights fees? I don't think so. Check out DAWGSTRUCTION today. We'll see you on the website.